Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Such.
And my name is James.
We've got one more week to go, James. Only two more match days until we're into the overhaul period. To kind of getting through now, really, isn't it? Just hoping for no injuries and just survive, which was pretty much the story of last weekend, if I'm honest with you, as well. My rank yo-yoed quite a bit, although the tightness of it in points at the moment really means it's largely irrelevant. But I did fall back from about 3,500 to 4,000, but then I didn't use any transfers, so you shouldn't be surprised. But I had no return other than tier points. I had only goals from Mo Salah. Not a single other goal or assist or clean sheet return, James.
Huh, that's a bit grim.
Well, David Raya, again, with the save tier 2, he's been very consistent for me with save tiers this season so far, David Raya. Van Dijk, passing tier 1. Trippier, he picked up an assist. Sorry, I had Trippier's assist, not part tier. Rodri Caicedo picked up tiers, and then Mo Salah picked up lots of points. But that was literally it for me this week, and I ended up on 63 points. But then I didn't use a transfer, and Cancelo.
I take it you captained him Saturday.
Yeah, of course, and Mo Salah on Sunday were my two captains.
You can't be angry if you did that. I mean, I did that. I captained Cancelo on Saturday as well. You cannot be angry about that at all. Should have left it on Haaland. No, you shouldn't. Cancelo was on the pitch, 25 minutes? He had about 44 passes or so.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If he doesn't get sent off, he certainly gets passed in tier 2. Probably keeps a clean sheet because Fulham's XG in the game was basically the penalty, despite playing that long against 10 men. So there was every chance it was a big haul for him. So right decision to change it. Obviously on Saturday, it was in complete survival mode for me. So I had 4 points from Webster, -2 from Cancelo as having captained him, Haaland for 5, Mitrovic no show. That's literally what I had on Saturday. And I think psychologically, when you have a low scoring week in Sky, that just feels so much worse. And then you think it's only one day tomorrow, one captaincy. And I essentially survived because I captained Mo. Who I rather would have done absolutely naff all, but 34 points from a Sky Fantasy perspective will be taken. Also had 7 from Saliba. Pope just missing out on the clean sheet. Won't be the only one. Trippier is obviously hugely owned at the moment. Wilfred Zaha's 13 points.
I was very surprised
handy for me.
With Trippier's ownership, actually, when I had a look, 61 point something percent. He's really climbed up. But then at 7.8, he's ticking along really nicely.
Yeah.
And what did that give you overall then, James?
70 points for the week.
Not bad.
2,122, which I've kind of been hovering there for a little while now. And it is, it's survival period. I've long past thinking about transfers and stuff. So, I mean, I've got Haaland and Mitrovic, for example, as my 2 forwards right now. Silva and Guardiola could both come out on Friday, respectively, and say these 2 ain't playing. And I still ain't making a transfer. Because I've got other options for captaincy, so I won't be doing anything.
I mean, we're getting to that point. It's a good inflection point on the first half of the season. Because as we go into this weekend, my intention is not to use a transfer. But if Erling Haaland is in the team, I will be buying Erling Haaland back.
You go for it.
Oh, 100%. Like Rodri to Haaland all day long. Rodri for me is a 5-pointer. And maybe best case scenario, 8-pointer. Haaland could be, with the captaincy, could be astronomical. And so, if Haaland starts, there's no way I'm not getting Haaland back.
How many transfers you got left now?
43.
I don't think I'd do it, Suj. Who else have you got Saturday?
It's not about who can cover him off. It's if he goes off big, it's gonna ruin me, mate.
But is it still worth the transfer?
I could put Salah at home to Southampton.
Yeah, exactly.
Managerless. I mean,
have you got Van Dijk as well? I feel like you might have Van Dijk.
Yeah, I do.
So
I mean, that Kane goal for me was, if Kane hadn't scored, I reckon I would have been 3,000 rather than 4,000 in overall rank, because That's Van Dijk's clean sheet. And obviously a lot of people captained Harry Kane over Mo Salah, so they would have had a climb in points. That Kane goal was a kick in the nuts, but, at least it was only one goal. So
Southampton haven't scored at Anfield for 6 years. Their last 5 results at Anfield, Liverpool won 2-0 twice, 3-0 once, and 4-0 twice. So can you captain Mo Salah on Saturday over? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't captain Salah over Haaland if I had both. Do I think it's worth the transfer to bring in Haaland and move that? No. You've also got Cancelo, right? It's fine for captaincy, mate. If you've got Kane, I think it's reasonable. I think of those players mentioned, Harry would probably be at the bottom of my list for that. I think Leeds have shown in the big games this year that they'll be competitive. So I think Kane would be at the bottom of the list. But Cancelo, KDB, Salah as alternatives. And of course, you see the Man City team this Saturday are absolutely fine. There's no chance Mo doesn't play unless he was to pick up an injury between now and the weekend. He hasn't got a World Cup to worry about on the other side. So he probably gets the full 90 in a game where ordinarily it might have been a rotation risk if it was kind of in between Champions League games or something. I don't think it's worth transfer, Serge. I think you'd look at it and go, yeah, I'm going to lose out a bit here. But are you going to...
The flip side is, if Salah goes off and Haaland blanks, I'm going to climb massively.
Exactly. How many times have we been here where we've made a transfer and moved the captaincy? I mean, look, use the Nico Williams, Paulinho kind of extreme example from that Friday night Forest Fulham game. It's not necessary, is it? Haaland, one game. Would you favour him as the most likely, if he's in the team, to score the most points this weekend? Yeah, of course. Like, if I see him in the team, I'm owning him, I'm going to captain him, right? But is that enough for a transfer? Because it's not just, I'm going to lose out. How badly do you need to lose out for that transfer to be worthwhile?
Well, this is the problem with Haaland, right? He's like hat-trick material. This is where the fear with Haaland really comes. Because if he goes big, he goes big. But
I think I'm going to presume most Sky managers didn't buy him back last week as he wasn't in the team. But I think the position to last week, we had got 2 games, 2 captaincy. Yeah, do it. He's different now to 1. And the alternatives is last weekend as well. You're looking at alternatives for captaincy on the Saturday, and why most of us went to Cancelo weren't great, right? This week you've got City again, you've got Liverpool as well, and you've got Tottenham if you particularly fancy a Kane, for example. So I wouldn't do it. I don't think that's worth a try. One game for transfer.
Who are you looking at for Sunday? Because I've only got Casado and Paulinho, and I think I'm just going to go Paulinho and leave it. I'm not going to bother trying to force in Rashford or anything along those lines.
Yeah, I think for Sunday, my take on it would be, if you have anything, captain it. If you're sitting there for some reason with, I was going to say some reason, but if you're sitting there with Paulinho, it's fine. You're sitting there with Casado, it's fine. If you're sitting there with, if you're just sitting there with, for whatever reason, Tyrone Mings, and that's your only player, just captain Tyrone Mings. Ollie Watkins might be one. Like, just captain these guys. That's not worth a transfer on Sunday for one game. If you have nothing, I'd still be borderline about it. I'd probably go for a United attacker like a Fernandes or Rashford 1 week punt, or Martinez at the back. But Fulham are decent going forward. I would imagine Martinez will likely probably pick up passing tiers in that. But it's a little more unpredictable away from home. I don't know if United have quite got that control yet to go and dominate a side like Fulham, who might play very differently against United to how they played against City. Even against 10 men against City, they didn't really go and press hard. City still had huge passing numbers, as we'll talk about in a bit. I'd argue if I had nothing on Sunday, I think there's a good case to say don't do nothing. Actually, it's borderline whether you bother. I think a couple of weeks ago I said, I want a Brighton player, definitely. But that's muddied now because we don't quite know what we're going to get from Unai Emery. We know what we got on Sunday against Manchester United, but we're going to get the same against Brighton. We don't really know. Like, he's a McAllister. McAllister's the one who I think's probably got the variation. So, like, he hit shots here at Wolves at the weekend. We know he can hit passing numbers. We know he can hit tackle numbers. Yeah, great. He could hit a lot. He could also hit nothing. Is Alexis McAllister worth a transfer for one game?
Oh, I'm with you, mate. I don't think anyone on Sunday's worth a transfer. So yeah, like you said.
So I think example would be,
just go with it.
I'm in a position where I've got Mitrovic and Webster. So I would favour Webster for the captaincy anyway. It's the earlier game. If I see the team and Webster's not in it, Am I going to make a transfer?
No.
No, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that Mitrovic gets minutes against Man United, and that's the end of it. That's
exactly
my take at the moment.
I had a look at my transfers this season. With 7 I've made this season, just trying to get a feel for, because I think I've done okay so far. 2 of my 7 were enforced by injuries. Romero early in the season.
That's quite remarkable. That's not bad. That's quite remarkable.
And Haaland, obviously 2 weeks ago, were forced by injuries. 2 of my transfers failed so far, in my opinion. Both fucking West Ham players, Bowen and Skamaka. I think as transfers in haven't materialized the points that I would have liked. And the other 3 have been okay. Like I've bought in Trippier, Casado, and then I've done a hokey cokey between Kane and Salah, which that Kane Salah hokey cokey has actually worked out quite well for me. I owned Salah when he had the West Ham game with the captaincies, and I've had Kane before when he scored against Everton and what have you. So, when I look at it, I'm like, 2 of them were forced transfers. 2 have been shit. 3 have been okay. So it's a ratio of actually only really 50-50 on what's good, what's bad.
I mean, from your historical, it does figure that the less you do, the better chance you've got.
So we keep stacking them up, but I know we're going to start thinking about post-overhaul. A lot of people will have questions about overhaul period and what we're going to do. So I would just add that we've got a long period before the game reopens. You don't necessarily need to worry about it now. And we will do plenty of content before the game reopens about overhaul specifically. But when I look at my team, there is one overriding feeling that I have. The kind of budget players, Paulinho, Casado, have been ticking along. Even David Raya, I think Trippier at 7.8. There's a lot of good value between 7 and 8 million that I think will allow us to hokey cokey, like Callum Wilson if he's fit at 7.9. There's going to be some really good, steady players. What price is Maddison, James? I'm really interested in him.
I did check back on James Maddison, 9.3.
Yeah,
which might be difficult to fit in. Plus, as we discussed on Monday's pod, it comes back to Newcastle and Liverpool. Looks difficult. You could make a case that actually Tuesday the 3rd of January, when they host Fulham, you move perhaps from a Liverpool player if you want to go double Liverpool for the first few.
Yeah. But overall, I think it's just, Warren Buffett, the investor, James, one of the mega rich guys, he always buys good companies at a fair price. He's never looking for a deal or some big upside or massive, put your money in crypto and you're going to become 10x. He's just always good companies at a fair price. And I think that's my Sky philosophy, good players at a fair price, like not looking for someone who's going to pop off because there's crazy form or something like that, like a magic silver bullet that's going to cure all problems and jump up the ranks. Sticking with good players at a fair price, I think is going to be the strategy.
Do you know what price Miguel Almiron is? We barely speak about him on the show.
6.6 is he? 7. Yeah, cheap.
It's ridiculous. How many times have we been looking all season for a player at that value? There's this guy putting the ball in the net every week.
And ignored every week.
And he might be after overhaul as well, possibly. There are some interesting fixtures in there, but once Isak's back fit, and they obviously could add in January, he'll be so popular, I think, at that value on overhaul, particularly if he scores again at the weekend. It's stuck in people's minds. He hasn't got the World Cup to worry about. I think he'd be very, very popular at 7 million. I'd already be thinking about what the options are to potentially move away from that. But right now, would you pick Almiron or Paulinho on overhaul? And it's me. You've probably got to go Almiron, haven't you?
Yeah.
Between the two.
Paulinho's 6.6. There's 0.4 in it. Yeah, I'd probably go Almiron. And you're talking about
if it doesn't work out, you move it, right?
Yeah. I think Almiron would be one to consider. Do you want to talk about some of these games?
I was just going to say, that said, I did, that by no means have I looked into any detail, but I did kind of draft a team that I like in my head from little things I know, like United fixtures after the break. And I didn't put him in. What was interesting, actually, when I looked at a draft team for after the World Cup currently, he actually ended up keeping 7 of what I've got, interestingly.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to keep quite a lot of what I've got.
I just throw that out there just now because I think that there's a little split where still Haaland, Cancelo. I think Martinez and Rashford, arguably, for 2 United and then move away from 1. Pope Newcastle coverage. Saliba, I think, standard. You get Haaland and Kane in, so you can go Haaland, Kane, and Salah. Mitrovic in there at the moment, could easily be Wilson. I think Martinez at 8 million at Arsenal is obviously decent value. And then at currently, actually, did I say Martinez again? Sorry, Martinelli. And McAllister over Almiron, 7.4. Just because of variation. Now, there's no way I'm saying I'm going to go with that because what the January TV fixtures, which we will certainly get soon, is potentially going to have an impact on that. We'll suddenly, oh my God, I need a Palace player or whatever. Who knows?
And I'm also interested, James, in what your opinion is on the 4 yellow card club, because that might change after this weekend. Say Saliba picks up a yellow, but you're not starting with him because he's going to be suspended first game back.
Yeah, I'd still start with him.
Or Jesus.
Yeah, no, I'd still, yeah.
Interesting.
If Saliba's on 4 years,
but again, it depends on the no. But if he picks up his 5th yellow this weekend, he won't be eligible for the first game.
Yeah, I'd still get him.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it's only going to be a transfer down the line. It's almost a certainty.
I think, but then you might get a 2-for-1 on something like when we know the TV fixtures. So,
but then if you use that example of Arsenal's fixtures, West Ham at home, Brighton away, Newcastle at home as the first 3, I'm not captaining him anyway. If I know I want him to sit there till the end.
Saliba's a bit of a different case in the sense that he's so cheap, right, that you can just ride out the suspension like we did Paulinho. If it was a premium that you're going to captain like a Salah or a KDB, then maybe you wouldn't start with them and use the money on power elsewhere. So I do get what you're saying with Saliba. Maybe is one that you would just start with. But I
mean, let me give you a different example. If France get to the World Cup final and win it, and they have a big party afterwards, he might not play against West Ham anyway, and then that suspension might come 2 games later. So he might only play one of the first 3. Let's still start with Saliba. If that's a premium big hitter, I think I feel differently. But for Saliba, who I think I'd just want to sit there all year and not piss about with it, yeah, I'd still start with him, I think, just as an example. If that's, like I said, if that's a Kane or something like that, then that money is very well spent on Kevin De Bruyne in the meantime, for example. It's different, Suj. It's different.
Yeah. Anything interesting from the games, James? And we can talk about some of these questions that we've had in on Twitter as well. Not too many.
Yeah, we'll skim through this quite quickly. Leeds players, Cooper and Koch at centre-back weren't a million miles off passing tier 50 and 52. Leeds had 4 shots on target, and it was a great game, but they all went in the net.
Did they score 4 from 4, did they?
Yeah, it was 4 shots on target. Travis didn't make a save in the game, actually. The only Bournemouth tier was Tavernier shot tier. I did speak about on Monday's pod. Was outstanding, but we're not looking there for Sky Asset. Fulham, despite playing against City with 10 men, we have had this theme lately where centre-backs have actually been getting kind of in the 40s passing numbers against Man City. Tim Ream did 43, Issa Diop 30. I'd have expected more than that, considering what we've been seeing as kind of a line against Man City. They still got overwhelmed from a possession perspective, to the extent that 5 Manchester City players hit passing tier. Aki and Akanji. Aki moved to kind of left backish later in the game. Rodri, who, having watched the game back, and I'm doing a piece on Rodri for Talking Tactics for advanced tier patrons today, 99 passes. He was outstanding, Suj. Yeah. Gundogan, 63. Bernardo Silva started right wing and after the red card went into central midfield, 76. Only 2 touches for Erling Haaland this week, Suj, I think. Or 2 passes completed, sorry, rather. Forest and Brentford. Ben Mee, 75 passes at Forest. You don't see that every week. Gibbs White, who I've mentioned, I think is a decent 1-week punt for FPL managers. Sky, it's just the lead. 3 shots on target. Nico Williams back in the tackles with 6. Wolves Brighton. Do you know the pricing numbers of Brighton centre-backs, considering they were against 10 men for a whole half on Saturday? Such?
I don't, James. I'm going to stab at they were very low. So 40 and 46.
Don't be silly. Dunk 110, Webster 105.
Wow.
Casado 71.
Yep. Two passes.
55.
Okay.
He's surprising. Probably means that they found difficulty punching the ball actually into Casado and and McAllister, because that's what Brighton centre-backs like to do. It's another reason why the numbers are really high, is just generally going forward, it's going to come back strong. The centre-backs like to punch the ball into the 2-6s and they'll get it straight back.
But if you
made two passes in one action.
Caicedo a while ago, when he picked up passing tier against Tottenham, passing tier against Brentford, passing tier against Nottingham Forest. He didn't against City and Chelsea, obviously two difficult games, but then did pick it up again against Wolves. So that's 4 out of the last 6. He's picked up passing tier. Sorry, Forest was a tackle tier, not a passing tier, but 3 of the last 6, but 2 of those were Chelsea and Man City.
Great.
Chelsea they were battering. So he's doing okay, actually, Caicedo, I think.
I don't think you'd pick him over McAllister, though, even at the price saving. Well, I think McAllister's got more variety in terms of there's generally probably more in tackles. He's hit shots here again at the weekend as well, right? So, and he's on the pens. So with him, part of these players are, I think as well, every now and again, the captaincy is going to need to go on them for some reason. McAllister has the potential to do the KDB, right? The sweep the lot in a certain game. So I think you would pay the extra. For Wolves, Gonzalo Guedes played and hit shots here. There was saved here from Saar, wouldn't be unexpected. It was saved here for Jordan Pickford for Everton, I think the closer we get, and perhaps depending somewhat on England's performance, if he's back early, could potentially be a really interesting one, I think, Suj. Because they're the sort of one Everton, if suddenly you need a captaincy, there's nothing there you want. I still don't think they've hit a passing tier all season. I don't think. I haven't double checked that, to be honest. That said, in this game, Cody 57, Tarkovsky 53, so they're getting a little bit closer. But if suddenly Everton have got, I don't know, Forest at home on a Monday night, for example, which won't happen because I've already played them, Pickford's the one, isn't he? So I think, longer term planning and thinking ahead, it's almost on an overhaul, problem solving. What do I need? And it might be you look, right, where can I have issues if this game becomes a Monday night, for example, in February? And it might be the more we look at it, the more Jordan Pickford looks like an option possibly, because you won't want anything else from Everton, I don't think. For Leicester, although James Maddison didn't have a shot, it's worth shot on target. It's worth noting he had 8 during the game. Great goal from Yuri Tielemans, hit pass and tip. Wout Faes is another one who I don't think will get a lot of interest at a very decent price because they've got Liverpool and Newcastle in their first 2 after the break. But we'd mentioned particularly, say, Johnny Evans ahead of that run of fixtures they had, that they've improved massively. What is it, 5 clean sheets in 7 or so?
Yeah.
And he's very capable of passing tiers, particularly him. He is. I know I used David Luiz comparison, but he is similar to him in style as well. Patson Daka played up front, hit shots here. For Arsenal, brilliant win at Chelsea. They were outstanding, as I covered in detail on Monday. Just tackled here for Zinchenko and Xhaka. But Gabriel and Saliba's 50 and 48 passes, respectively, is decent. Chelsea's highest pass was Silva, 44. Cucurella and Azpilicueta in the tackles. Martinez at Villa Park, 84 passes. Now, there might be an influence in that in the sense they've gone 2-0 down quite early, right? So you expect Villa to sit off and let them have it even more. But I think he's going to be really, really popular, Suj, on the other side. They've got Forest at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home. And even if it's just for those 3, maybe even, and then chain it on to something else, there's a couple of captaincies in there as we've discussed previously. So I think he'll be really, really popular. Christian Eriksen hit passing. Casemiro hit tackles. He was 11 off of passing numbers. Jacob Ramsey came back in the Villa team, scored, assisted, got an own goal, and hit tackles here himself. Leon Bailey might be an interesting one to kind of scan Sunday for potentially the other side, I think. He's not overly expensive, and at the moment, he's playing through the middle up top. He does feel with him it can change at any time, and they're a similar one in the sense, Villa, that they've got Liverpool and Tottenham in their first 2 after, and it's Liverpool at home and Tottenham away. It doesn't feel great, so we'll probably overlook them. Newcastle, only tier at the weekend, Pope saves, despite that excellent win. Highest passer was Guimaraes, 35.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And actually, we'd spoken last week and said the numbers look like they're beginning to get on the rise for Newcastle players in terms of passing numbers. Not in this one. Not
It's
in this
probably
one at all.
too comfortable for them, right? Let the opposition have the ball and pick them off on the counter style.
James Ward-Prowse, 64.
Okay.
But he's been toilet this year. I should
Yeah.
note, we speak about him on Clash of Correspondents tomorrow. I've already recorded. Matt Sam was on with Dan Lord. We previewed a Liverpool Southampton game. Southampton, as we said, do have a good run of fixtures on the other side where he's the sort of one I bet he'll do quite well. But I don't know how you pick him at the moment, unless it looks like there's going to be a day in there where you're going to need it. And actually, as it stands at the moment, you'd arguably want whoever's playing on the other team, I think. Anderson and Klein, interestingly, passes at your place on Sunday, Suj. Mark Gay not. So Anderson had 9 more than Gay. And remember, the imbalance has been the other way quite a lot.
The other way for a while, yeah.
They changed system in the sense that they've been playing 4-1-4-1. Schlupp played deeper at your place. And as I said on Monday, I think that fixed a lot of their problems. That could be an anomaly. Rice got passing tier for yourself, Suj. Paqueta, 6 tackles. Is this something we should be aware of here, Suj?
Well, like I've said previously, he does do a lot of work in the midfield. As much as he's a flair player and a skill player, his first instinct is he gets about the pitch quite a bit, and he does do the hard graft that sometimes you don't expect flair players to do. So I've seen that consistently from him, that he's been getting around and he's not scared to roll his sleeves up. Whether or not he'll consistently get passing tiers, I'm not sure. What's the price on Paqueta? I haven't even looked.
I haven't got a Scooby, mate. You're meant to know.
Sure
this is your team.
I'm sure he's going to be between 8.5 million, something like that. I'll have a quick look, but it's not one for me now.
8.1.
Yeah, it's wait till West Ham find some form, but yeah.
No, listen, that's the first time he's hit tackles here. So I think he's had shots here once as well. There's nothing to write home about yet. He's certainly a talented player. He may even be a starter for Brazil at the World Cup. Finally, at half-time at White Hart Lane on Sunday, I did think, let me have a cheeky at Virgil van Dijk's passing numbers here. And it was in the 50s.
Yeah.
He finished on 66.
Yeah, I know.
It's incredible.
That was the one thing I was watching throughout the entire match, because he was differential for me, really. When would you ever think that Virgil van Dijk would be 8.8% owned in the top 1,000, James? It's so low. But yeah.
They do have good fixtures on the other side as well. I've spoke about there probably will be a period where there's a load of clean sheet. Maybe, look, this period have calmed down. And maybe if, say, Holland's go out in the last 16 or the quarterfinals, then you can be assured that as long as he's not injured, he'll come back and play all the games. He could be one to look back on, honestly. They've got a good sustained run of games where, I look at Villa away, Leicester at home, Brentford away. Okay, they're challenges. Elite passing numbers in all 3 of them. I'd bet that very, very strongly. Kanate might be one to look at until the Champions League starts, but I think if Joel Matip's fit as well, that's concerning. And Dan repeats that on COTC. He thinks when the Champions League restarts, he'll go back to Kanate as the priority in the Champions League, actually, which is part in turn in terms of trying to protect Trent and stuff. But it was really surprising that how much they just changed, and I'm not saying it negatively about them, but they sat off. They sat off. Thiago hit passing numbers and tackles. Salah and Núñez shots. Longley and Davis passing tier for Tottenham, which I wouldn't have expected, to be honest. But as I always say, you'll get anomalies in Tottenham games. And I think the anomaly here is Tottenham were 2-0 down, and that won't happen often. And that's where, and combine that with Liverpool going, fine, have it. That's where these numbers have come from.
Cool. We've not had too many questions in on Twitter, James. We'll be able to get through these relatively quickly, and then we will talk about the World Cup a little bit as well. Michael Haaland, this is not so much a question, but he's
Michael Haaland, is he a brother or?
No. He's sat at 9K, but has 38 transfers. The points are still so narrow. It's unbelievable. So not beginning to get stressed. Transfers are the key to winning the game. No one knows the fixtures at the end of the season, which is still a mile away, which is why I'm hanging on. And the last third quarter of the season is when you see the most 2-for-1, 3-for-1 opportunities because of the cup involvement of teams. Right now, everybody gets their fixtures back. Bar City, Arsenal, that one game, everyone will be on the same fixtures when we get to the World Cup. Brighton Palace is the other one, isn't it? That hasn't been rearranged.
Well, there's loads. Isn't it? You've got a full program. There's United, Leeds, Brighton,
No, but
Palace.
which are the games that haven't been rearranged? I
What do
mean,
you
you've got
mean?
the full week that was,
Yeah, and then there's 4 more on top
and
of
there's
that.
a few other games. But generally, we'll have more three for ones, four for ones later on. So, Michael, all I would say is well done, because a lot of people, when they get to 9K 38 transfers, would be pulling their hair out and saying, oh, I can't win anymore. But the fact that you're not stressed, well done.
Yeah, don't take some time off anyway.
Yeah. George Thomas, on the other hand, is ranked in the top 500,
Nice.
but only has 24 transfers left and is worried and upset with well-ranked, engaged managers with more transfers. Can I still win? And what would be your advice in terms of how to play it from here?
Yes.
24's, but there's probably 24 game weeks, 25 game weeks, right? So you're talking about a transfer a week that you still have left. I just think you have to, for the first period after overhaul, just set yourself up for longer, right?
Yeah,
And
completely
everyone
agree.
else will catch up. There'll come a point 5-7 weeks into post overhaul where people will suddenly might feel that they've got too many transfers, but just do what you can to set yourself up with steady eddies rather than daisy chaining and looking for big hits. That's what I would suggest.
Exactly that. I used the Saliba analogy earlier. You're not, someone in your position, Sergio, in 40s, maybe might look and go, okay, I'll go back for Saliba after, say, Arsenal played at Tottenham on, it's likely to be, the 15th of January, I think we said, 14th of January, the Saturday, it'd probably be. So maybe the weekend after that, you go, oh, I don't want that. I'll come back to him. Now, for me, who knows he's a great hold all season, and for the person with a question, he just goes in, he stays in, doesn't he? Forget about it. You don't want to be wasting that transfer. Whereas others might want to gamble against that, for example. So, yeah, you're setting yourself up template to start with and look longer.
Dan Stewart, which players could you see as good differentials post overhaul? Well, Dan, all I would say is make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to the podcast or YouTube, because we'll be looking at that throughout. When we get closer to the overhaul ending.
It's difficult to say because none of us really know. Like, I don't know, if the World Cup finals, France, Brazil, for example, are they going to come back and play the following week on Boxing Day? It's almost impossible to say at the moment. And once we get a little bit nearer, I think we'll start getting an indication and how that might affect our philosophies and stuff. I think, I can certainly see if, say, Brazil won a World Cup and they go and party for a week, there's every chance Brazilian players aren't playing on Boxing Day. That may affect Arsenal, for example, as one team. So it's all really difficult to say. I think once it becomes clearer in terms of the January TV fixtures, it will become clearer. But I mean, the team I put together there as kind of just a quick draft, which I literally did in 2 or 3 minutes last night. Other than McAllister, it's all players, and Mitrovic, he's players from the top 7, if we say Big 6 and Newcastle at the moment. And I feel like Brighton are 6th and Fulham might be 8th or 9th or something, right? So it's basically a top half team. Unless the TV fixtures otherwise, I don't think we need to be looking at differential from Bournemouth or, to be honest, it's not necessary. And the reality is, we're all going to pick quite a similar team, I think, on overhaul, and that's okay. Where accept it, and in January, there'll be, oh, everyone's got the same team. Exactly what you said. It will move. It will move. People will have different transfer accounts and stuff. Once we get rearranged fixtures start getting put in, and there's every chance a few will do, even into the midweeks in January, which will affect things as well. Things will start changing. So I think accept that it'll probably be a template for a little while. The popular players will be popular for a reason. You don't have to swing against it in January. When you may, and your man's at 500 and he still wants to finish first, yeah, you need to swing very differently at that stage. You don't in December. There's a long way to go. It's going to be more than half a season left. It's going to be some teams have only played like 14 fixtures. Got 24 games to go. So it's really, really long way to go, which is not normally the case in SkyFF Overhaul, right?
No. Chris Hermitage, with Dallo being suspended, no captain on Sunday, who do you believe is the best pick for the day? He could basically buy anyone, isn't bothered. Rashford? Bruno's not going to be fit, is he?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, is he fit?
Yeah, he was suspended last week, wasn't he?
Oh, okay, fine. So
I
Bruno?
Look, because it's the last game, you can sell Haaland, you can sell De Bruyne, you can sell wherever you want, right? So money is irrelevant. It's just literally who's the best pick. I think that's Bruno still.
Okay.
Which normally I wouldn't say ordinarily play the extra for Bruno for Rashford, but it doesn't matter. You know Bruno loves a shot. You have got a small possibility of passing tackle tiers. Passing very unlikely. Tackle's not impossible. If Ronaldo's not looking like he'll start, which is difficult to say, he might be back on the pens again. So Bruno. Bruno for me, mate.
Should there be wants to know when Such will be attempting to win Manager of the Month with his second team?
Weren't you going to do that this month?
No. Well, thank fuck I didn't, mate, because this weekend was a car crash. This weekend was a car crash.
Do you know what? You would have gone so many Man City, mate.
Yeah.
So you would have had to, yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't have the time to actually think about it. I don't know is the honest answer, but when I do, we'll definitely hear about it on the pod. FPL Fish has 2 questions. We're going to come back to the second one in a minute, James. How many players do you think you will keep from your current team during overhaul? I'm not sure, but I would say that of my team, like Raya, Cancelo, Van Dijk, Trippier, Paulinho, Casado, Salah, Jesus, like there's a lot of them that are inconsistent. Even Rodri, Bowen, Skamaka, they can fuck off, but everyone else is still under consideration, mate, to be honest with you.
Well, as I said, what I drafted last night, looking at it quickly, 7. And the new players for me would be the double United, Martinez, Rashford, McAllister, and Harry Kane. So wouldn't be hugely changing it up. I think when you sit down and look at it now, though, I think Kane, Haaland, Salah, all 3 can work. And I think you're looking at the start and you think, oh, who's the enablers and stuff like that. And you think it might just be 2 and you might need to do hokey cokies. Like, I think the 3 of them can sit in there quite comfortably because of people like Mitrovic. You mentioned Callum Wilson, Almiron, McAllister, Saliba, Martinez 8.3-ish or so. Basically, I picked 10. And actually, I landed with Rashford as the 11th choice with 8.3 in the bank. So, I mean, I don't even have to spend all that money, right? I could go, right, Paulinho, and I'll sit on this and wait for a different option or Almiron or whatever, right? So,
Tim Barry says, is Salah or Kane worth a gamble against Haaland on Sunday? We talked about this earlier, James. If you've got Haaland in your team, then I definitely don't agree with that.
You see it as well.
If you have him, you got to do it. If you don't, then yeah, sure. I think Salah over Kane for me. Home fixture against Southampton, managerless, but yeah, it's doable. Ian Parrin, if you were giving yourself,
I would not gamble Haaland against him if he's in the team personally.
Against Salah,
as in I wouldn't not do Haaland.
Yeah, like, if you own Haaland, you captain Haaland.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you don't have to get Haaland.
This is not the week to gamble. Yeah. There will be other weeks. I don't think this is it.
Ian Parrin, if you were giving yourself an end of term SkyFF grade for the first part of the season, what would it be? I think mine would be a B-. I'm in the top 1K with a decent transfer count. Just a couple of schoolboy errors like getting Cucurella and that kind of thing that have hurt. Well, look, everybody makes mistakes, right? So if you expected all your transfers to go swimmingly well, you'd also expect to be top right now. I'm going to give myself, James, an A. And I'll tell you why. Forget the points and the transfer count. I have only missed one captaincy, which was Jesus, I think, on the first day.
And, what about you missed Maddison as well, didn't you?
And I've missed one transfer, which was Maddison.
That was such a big one, mate.
I've missed only one transfer and one captaincy. So I think that's good. There's progress.
Right, so I can't be giving you an A for that then. I think like how you are positioned, yeah. I'm B+, I think.
Okay.
For myself, a C, I think. Oh. Like I'm not doing great. I'm not doing bad. I'm in the mix, but it's no better than that. I'm at a C. It's going to be extremely difficult for me. I've obviously used a lot more. I probably ended up not using as many as I thought it would. Actually, I'm going to go into the overhaul with 31, which I think is reasonable, right? We're saying some teams have got 24 games left. I've got 31. That's okay. Ordinarily, what that would have been 9 transfers used at this stage of a season, which I think would be normal and stuff. So I've not got the gains that I probably would have wanted. Is what I'd say. Can I still do damage with 31 transfers? Yeah, I think so. And you know me, it's coming into my season with the planning and stuff, right?
Yep. Last question of the show, James, and you'll know why I picked this question last. This is from FPL Fish. Will you both be playing the World Cup game and podding on it? So yes, we will be
we've
playing
got to
the World
play.
Cup game, and we will be podding on it as well. James, you want to give us everybody a quick overview of what's happening, what the game's saying? Because if you log into the Sky app now, there is that tab that says international, isn't it? And
Yes.
you can start picking your World Cup team. I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked at it. I don't even know the rules or anything. So give us the overview.
If you use the app regularly rather than the browser, then you need to update the app, or as some have even found out, actually delete it and reinstall it. Website should come up automatically, no problem at all. There is a tab next to, you'll see it now, says like Premier League and international, and you can set your team up from there. We will do a Sky World Cup pod next Wednesday, so Sky pod will continue next Wednesday. The week after, where you've got games at 10 o'clock in the morning, there's no point. There's no point doing a Sky pod on a Wednesday morning, be out of date within an hour. So during the first bit of the tournament, I'm going to do live streams at 8 o'clock in the morning for half hour, and I'll try and get the audio out before the first game as well. You're more than welcome to obviously drop in and ask me some Sky questions on that, and I'll probably cover my kind of daily thinking. Once we get beyond the group stage, we'll balance it where it becomes a bit easier, where you haven't got 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. kickoffs and stuff, where we can look at doing it. But then I think for Sky, this is going to be so fluid and so daily that it's going to be difficult to do a Wednesday pod. Ordinarily, we do a Wednesday pod. Sometimes we have midweek fixtures, but we talk about the weekend. With this, you're going to date within a day.
Yeah.
So whether it's worthwhile, not sure, but we'll do a Sky pod next Wednesday. I'll cover it regularly in the streams for the group stage, or the first part of the group stage, where we've got games at 10 a.m. anyway. You get 3 transfers per round. So, and we're not going to cover this too much detail now, because we'll do it next week. So basically, you've got 21 transfers. So between first game in the group stage, Qatar, Ecuador, Sunday week, and the last day of the first games, you can make 3 transfers. Once the start of the second set of group games starts, to the last bit of that, you make another 3 transfers, and then so on. At the end of the group stage, it's overhaul, and then it works the same. Where it's a little different to UCL Fantasy, for those who've played that, and me and Suj have, is you kind of get a scaling where you get more transfers the deeper it gets. This isn't going to do that. So you're only going to get 3 transfers for the final. You're only going to get 3 transfers for the semi-final. Same thing and stuff. You're going to have to box really, really clever for the latter stages, which I think means on whole, you're probably going to get quite a template. I think because people are naturally going to, if you think, oh, this has got to last me from the last 16 stage to the final, you're probably not taking the punt on Karu Mitoma of Japan unless you think they're going to go all the way, or at least to the semi-finals, for example. Ownership numbers. Just briefly, just give you a flavour. You know who the most owned player in the game is, Suj, at the moment?
I'm going to say something like KDB or...
You are spot on.
Okay. That's
KDB,
because everyone's from England is biased because of the Premier League.
KDB and Mbappe are the highest owned, 55%-ish. And you've got Kane and Messi, 37%-ish. And I'm just going to read you the kind of template this is taken from FF stuff. Ownership, these highest owned players. You will have heard of all of these, Suj. Vinicius Jr., Neymar, Cancelo, Trippier, Van Dijk, Courtois, Rudiger, Martinez, Foden, Denzel Dumfries, Luka Modric, Alisson, Sadio Mane, William Saliba, Christian Eriksen, Bukayo Saka. Which means those who do the research here will do well.
Right.
Because there's no one there. Like, if I said to you now, how many could you name in the Argentina team, for example?
Messi.
Well, yeah, and obviously Messi's going to be popular, but there might be options there. Same with Brazil and stuff, where he's perhaps bad examples in terms of lesser known, but these are all really well-known players. So diversification at the right time will be right. But again, at the start, it's going to end up quite template, because obviously at the start, you've got the first game's obviously Sunday to Thursday. So you want to pick the 5 best captaincies. So you're going to have 4 very template selections. It probably is going to be Harry Kane on the Monday, Lionel Messi on the Tuesday. It probably is going to be that. Then there's movement. What would be really interesting, I think, as well, is the end of the group stage, where teams are going to rotate more. those who've gone through, because it's 4-day, 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 are probably going to rotate more, and that's going to kill people. It's going to be
good
naughty.
though. Feels like a nice.
I think it's great that
game.
they've done it, because I think a lot of us, there has obviously been speculation this might be the last year of Sky. Them investing in this makes me feel like they didn't need to do it. I didn't expect it. It's a really nice surprise and gives me hope that we can keep playing this game for many years to come. So I think it's great. I've seen a few people moan about, I'm underwhelmed about it. I said to someone, I don't know how you can be underwhelmed about something you didn't expect. So I think it's nice that they put a game together. If you don't like it, fine. There's loads of different versions. Play different versions. I'll certainly be playing Sky.
Good. Is there a price?
£10,000, mate.
Oh, tidy. So just got really interested all of a sudden.
I mean, where's the priority going to be over this period for me? Be Sky Fantasy, mate.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm only going to cover the official game, really, because I have to. Because not everyone who listens to us lives in the UK, basically. That's it.
Exactly that. Cool. That's a wrap for Sky Fantasy Football. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back at you next week, like we said, reviewing everything and talking about the World Cup as well. Other than that, wherever you are listening to the podcast, just make sure you are subscribed and you'll get notified as soon as any content goes live. We are working throughout the World Cup. If you haven't heard on the main pod already, we do have promos running for Patreon as well, patreon.com/Planet FPL. If you sign up now in November, December is completely free and you will get bumped up a tier in January. So make sure, if you do want to support the show, you just get signed up before the end of the month.
I think it's highly likely we might do some Sky Pods on Patreon during the World Cup as well, because it might be that the timing wise just works out better. The thing is, we've got
these watch alongs, right? So what we're going to talk about for 90 minutes as well, we're going to be talking some Sky and Sky World Cup as well. So if you'd like to join us on Patreon, we'd love to have you over there.
Listen, when Peter FPL.team, Peter Featherstone, joins me for Argentina and Saudi Arabia, we're talking about FPL servers.
Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Play it your way. Good luck this weekend. Cue music, please, Match Up.